Hey, what is going on, everybody? Boilon here, back for another video on Raid Shadow Legends. Now, in today's video, we are going to be talking about fusion characters. Not necessarily Yukimasa, but we'll talk a little bit at the end. But I wanted to do a little bit of a fun tier list, especially with, Christmas and the end of the year slowly approaching. I want to do a bit of a recap of all of the fusion events that we've had this year in 2025. And why this is special to me is because this is the year that I started playing Raid. I started basically in January, and I didn't get the chance to get some of these fusions, but I have had the chance to talk to people about them and their usages. And a lot of them I do actually have in my own account. And so I want to rank the ones basically from S to C, because there's going to be 4 different rankings. I think that that's probably sufficient, honestly. And how much value that they've given to my account, but also I want to take into account just wider progression and how good those characters are. So before we get started with the rest of the video, though, I do want to remind people, if you haven't started playing Raid yet, what are you waiting for? Download using the QR code in the top right or the link in the description below to get Narma the Returned, recently reworked, amazing champion here, and 3 other epics to go alongside her: Allure, Tagore, and Ruella at accounts level 10, 20, and 30. And we have a fusion character here that we're going to be talking about in the video. If you want to use the promo code Demon Slayer, you can get Tholan Foulbeard Legendary Dwarf DPS absolutely free within the first 48 hours of a brand new account. I love this dwarf, so we're gonna he's gonna be in this video for sure. So what I've done is my usual. So I have this thumbnail, my YouTube thumbnail producer program that I'm going to show you guys here. And we're going to be arranging now. Yeah, it's not exact science. I just kind of like plop them here, and we're going to move them around. We have S, A, B, and below the B, behind my head here is C. So we're going to be arranging the portraits starting from the first character, and we're going to see where it ends up landing. Now we're going to talk about each of the characters one by one, starting off with the Mad Hatter. So let's talk about Mad Hatter. If I'm not mistaken, this is literally when I first started playing. If I'm not mistaken, he's Knight's Revenant. I think, right? He's up here, Mad Hatter. So I do not have Mad Hatter because I was a new player when this started, but I did get the Alice chase done. I got Alice the Wanderer, which was amazing. Mad Hatter's kit is pretty interesting. Every 10 turns taken by allies, heal all allies by 20% of their max HP. I heard that he was really good and is really good in Hydra. It's because of some of the mechanics that happens on his kit. Increase the duration of all buffs on all allies by 1, and decrease the duration of debuffs on all allies by 1 turn, and then fill turn meter with a cooldown of 3. We have some AoE Hex. We have some AoE Weaken, so some good debuffs again for Hydra as well here. The ally with the highest crit damage will team up and join the attack. I heard that if you paired this up with Cheshire Cat, that this was incredibly powerful, because Cheshire Cat would end up going into stealth and then doing AoE on his A1. And then we had, I guess, a debuff spread, 75% chance of applying a debuff spread. That's not bad. 1 random, though. It's not everything. It's just 1 random, but still not too bad. So where am I going to place Mad Hatter? As someone who doesn't actually own him, I heard that he was pretty good when he first came out in January, so I'm probably going to give him an A. I wonder if this is too generous here. So we can kind of see that I moved Mad Hatter here to the A position. Someone can let me know. I'm kind of like, because I don't actually own him, so I haven't had the chance to use him properly myself. So I am going to give him an A for just now. So this was the first one in like the end of January. Moving on to the February fusion, we have Esme the Dancer over here. So we're going to be talking about her a little bit. I also missed this one too. However, I do know more people that actually had a chance to use Esme, so just let's take a look at Esme anyways. She's a support champion here. And now, she has a speed all battle auras, which is pretty nice. Her passive effect here, though, has something to do with weak hits. Has a 15% chance of randomly changing an attacker's critical hit to weak, normal, or strong hits. Also, a duo partner of Moto of the Peel, who I do own, actually, but I do not have Esme. Whenever this champion is hit, increase the turn meter of the ally with the highest attack by 50. Now, this seems pretty bonkers to me. Okay, so I haven't actually, like taken advantage of using her, but this sounds crazy because it's on a cooldown of 1, this passive, 50%, because you can manipulate this, right, by obviously knowing which character is your character with the highest attack. That's a lot of turn meter. Well, that's a lot. Also, she has some really good buffs. She has increased accuracy and increased speed for 2 turns on a cooldown of 4. not 3, but that's okay. And then can also remove all buffs from all enemies. And then if Moto is on the team, it steals. And then we have an AoE that does weaken and block buffs, great for Hydra, things like this. I think she's a really great Hydra champion, in fact. Actually, some turn meter stuff if Moto's on the team, not really that big of a deal. This is interesting. On the A1, it gives a 50% attack buff on all allies. Only 1 turn, but it is on the A1. So if she's fast enough, like, you could just keep this going, which is pretty cool. So I'm probably gonna give her an A as well. I'm trying not to be too much of a cop out here in giving too many characters the A. I don't have any personal experience with using her though, so I think that's appropriate. Going into the March now, I was just making sure that I'm on the right track here. This is the Hell Hades website. Right, it is Fabian. I was like, was Lysanthier? No, so it's Fabian is next. Fabian was the anniversary event character for Raid's 5th anniversary. So again, part of the Undead faction, Undead Hordes. This guy was the very first fusion that I managed to complete. And he has done a lot for my account. He has done a lot for PvP. He's done a lot for faction crypts. He's done a lot in a variety of different areas of the game modes. He's great for wave clearing, controlling, and all of that stuff. He has a really great kit. He has tons of amazing debuffs. True Fear. He has people with Petrify and True Fear, everyone else. He's got turn meter rewind on his A1. He reduces enemies, decreases enemy, or increases, sorry, enemies cooldowns by 3. This guy was like an absolute menace in PvP. That so much so, I think they actually made that chronophage gear just to counter him. Maybe Alice as well. So yeah, this is a pretty interesting stuff. Fabian was very, very good. I still use him a lot, like every single day. Not necessarily as much in PvE. I do in some areas, but yeah, really great controller here. I want to put him in S tier, honestly, but I know that some people are going to hate me for doing this. I think he really made waves where you could use him. S tier makes it sound like he is usable everywhere, though, including he is usable in PvE. I think this guy was really great, and he had a lot of like things that he could do. I'm gonna. He's not a clan boss champion though. That's the only thing. So I guess I have to keep him into A tier. But he is really, really powerful. Fabian is really great. I do really like him. Let's move on and talk about no, sorry, not Ishiyama. Lysanthier Beastbane, who was next in April. Now, this guy was, I think he was very overhyped when people were talking about him, especially the major content creators from Raid were really overhyping this guy a little bit. Hyles, I have him, right? Lysanthier Beastbane. So he was largely designed as a counter to Hydra. It was a Hydra champion. Will ignore life barrier, right? That's a Hydra mechanic, and ally protection buffs. Increases the champion's defense by 5% for each active buff on this champion currently, up to 10 buffs, I guess. Stacks up to 50%. He does decrease speed and weaken, and then if they're under Hex, it does this before attacking, so that it does extra damage with the weaken being on. And then this part here, when this champion counterattacks or teams up with allies to join an attack, we'll use this skill instead of their default skill, and then this goes up by 10% each time an ally is devoured. So this was very specific to Hydra, the additional damage on this skill, and he had a crit damage A1 buff with Hex that he could apply as well. So I guess he was meant to use the A1, the A3 to kind of spread all, or to put this stuff up first, right? So, but he was really hyped up. I actually still use him, but he was not living up to the hype that people made it out. So this is going to be like the first B tier champion. Like, he's fine. Maybe, honestly, he could probably go into the C category, but I don't want to be too mean here. Lysanthier was a little bit underwhelming, in my opinion. But let me know in the comments down below. Moving on to the next champion, we're going to be talking about Ishiyama the Immovable. Now, Ishiyama came out of a time when I was on holiday. So he was a fragment fusion, and I didn't finish everything. But that being said, I don't think I was too torn up about it because I hear nobody talking about him, honestly. Like, the reviews are very mixed and poor in the game. His kit was okay. Like, I don't hear anyone talking about him. He was an HP-based champion. HP-based champions are okay, but they don't tend to be, unless certain characters be mega heavy hitters. He does ignore defense, Ignores 50% if the target's under 2 or more debuff. Like, but I heard that he just was not really hitting that much. He has to kill an enemy to get the block damage buff. He has an AoE that could do regular fear and crit damage and crit rate decrease. But like, how valuable are those debuffs? Do you really need it? You really needed to kind of like put books into him as well, which I didn't like. A 2-hit A1 transfer random debuff from this channel. It's like, honestly, I could see Ishiyama being a promo code champion in 2026 that they kind of give him away because like he's not bad, but he's just like not he's kind of meh. So he's actually going to be my first C tier fusion character. I actually think that Lysanthier is a little bit better than him and has some better debuffs, especially the weaken and decrease speed on Lysanthier's AoE. Wasn't a big fan of Ishiyama. I know I don't own him, but someone who does, I guess, can say in the comments whether or not you think I'm right or not. Let's move on, though, to the next one, who I love and adore, Tholen Falbeard. This guy was amazing. I actually think that Hell Hades kind of rated him a bit unfairly or a bit poorly. I think he's a bit better than he was rated on the website. So yeah, Tholen Falbeard, right here, just put him up here. Boom, he's everywhere. But he's he's even in people's some creators' legendary promo links. Like he's the starting legendary that some people have. You know, mine's Narma, but some people do actually have Tholen in that. So it's pretty interesting. He is just a really insane wave clearer. It's not even funny here. You know, he just has he activates his A1, which is an AoE every 5 turns that he takes, which happens pretty frequently, right? This does weaken AoE. He gets an extra turn if he places the weaken on all enemies, which can also happen on a single target. He's got an increased attack buff before he does more AoE damage. Like he's a major AoE killer. He can ignore unkillable and shield. That's great for some wave clearing and also arena. We have an A2 that also decreases the enemy's attack, including clan boss and other bosses, up to 25%, and then increases his attack up to 50%. Like, this guy's great. He's got a lot of reviews. He's very positive, pretty much everywhere. I have him actually at 6 red in my own account, so I'm really happy for that one. That I managed to get lucky and pull a 6 red out of nowhere on my Tholen Falbeard. He does have gear. I move it around. And I love this guy. I just absolutely love this guy. I have a 6 red crushing Ren that I couldn't be more happy about having. So, where am I gonna put? I know he's. People are gonna hate me here. I think he's that good. I actually think he's that good. I use him literally everywhere. I'm not joking. I use him in almost. I have the turtles now, so things have changed a little bit. But I use him in my clan boss. I don't use him in Demon Lord anymore, but I do use him in Hydra, and I used to use Chimera. I'm kind of using the turtles out of laziness, but other than that, I use Tholen in all 3 clan boss game modes. I used him in almost every single dungeon, with the exception of like Fire Knight and probably Sand Devils. But otherwise, I use him in everywhere else. Like I think he does it all. He almost does it all. I know people are gonna hate me for putting him in S tier. I think he's really good, and that's why everyone should have him, which is why he's part of my he's part of my promo code, right? That's why I do this. So, okay, moving on to the next character. Let's talk about that. Who is after Tholen? We have Titus, right? Titus Blackplume. Now he is a Void legendary character, and I think he might be the only one actually of this year. So that is worth noting as well. But there's a few things that I don't really like about Titus, and I want to get to that. So he's part of Bannerlords, right? So I do have him. He is really good if you have the characters to enable him. Now, I forget where. It's like this, right? This attack is always critical if this champion is under a shield buff. This attack also gains a damage boost equal to the percentage difference between this champion's max HP and the value of any shield buffs on them. So the higher the shield buff, the more damage he does. And I have seen some ridiculous damage with some clan bosses, in the billions of damage with Titus Blackplume. The problem is that you need characters to enable him. You need particular shield buff characters, including Vaultkeeper Wixwell is one of the best ones. So he can't obtain those damage numbers without having specific team comps. I heard Underpriest Brogni might be able to do some things like that. But by and large, you can't just throw any shield champion to do those kinds of damage with him. He is, however, a Void champion, and I do want to kind of note that, but I am mostly only using him in Bannerlords. faction crypts in other areas where I can use them, I guess in Cursed City as well. So I'm not personally getting a lot of use out of him, but some people have who have the characters that enable him to do great things. So I am going to put him in A tier for just now because I do recognize his greatness, and also he is a void champion, which is a really good thing to do, good thing to have here in fusion characters. I think he's the only one, in fact, that is a void fusion character. So I am going to put him in the A tier just for now. Moving into Hell Hades does rank him out of 5. You know, that's because of the insane amounts of damage he does. But like, you really need characters to enable him, and so I don't think he's widely accessible in that range to use him and utilize that. Crocad the Throat Ripper. I skipped this one, but I don't really know why. I think I was really busy at the time and I didn't finish it. Also, I didn't have the Packmaster. So that is something that I want to point out as far as Crocad. Like, he is an amazing champion for Hydra. He puts out some really impressive numbers. He was, and again, another character designed for Hydra, but also really amazing for any faction-based content, for any stuff where you can use orcs and you can pair the Packmaster and him together. They're like absolutely insane stuff. I've seen him in Arena with retaliation gear, and his A1 does AoE damage here if you have the Packmaster. It's like crazy amounts of damage, AoE damage here. Deals double damage when counterattacking if Packmaster Shayak is on the team. Like, absolute crazy stuff that this guy does. Huge damage. He activates his skills when someone gets devoured by the Hydra. So he, like, insane damage that this guy puts out. You know, some really good debuffs, leech and weaken. But you have to have you don't have to. I think you do actually. I think you kind of have to have Shayak on the team. And if you don't have him, well, I mean, his usefulness is a lot less. They did make him available in a path event alongside Throat Ripper's Red Stars, his souls, but I wasn't able to do this, and that's why I decided not to finish off my Throat Ripper. I should have still completed the fusion, just in the event down the line that I did end up picking up Shayak, but it didn't happen for me. But I do want to acknowledge his pretty big damage and his. So I want to put him in the S tier if you have Shayak. If you don't have Shayak, he's more like a B tier, right? I think, but I am gonna like acknowledge this and assume that if you have Shayak, he's up here because he is really powerful, and I do want to acknowledge that part. We have a couple of characters left. We have Donatello, my personal favorite. So, of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles collab, this guy was absolutely amazing. Donatello, oh boy, this guy made absolute waves. He was also a Fragment Fusion event, which in my opinion are some of the easier ones to clear, especially for light spenders, because if you miss a couple events, or even if you skip the Summon Rush, you could just buy your way to the rest of the shards for Donnie. Really great support champion. So we're not here to talk about the turtles and the rest of the stuff and what they do, but he does have one of those like fatal hit saves, basically on a cooldown of 4. So if someone's about to die, it equalizes the HP of the ally. His A3 is an AoE cleanse with continuous heal and strengthen buff for 2 turns on a cooldown of 3, which is great. And turn meter increase. We have the A2, and this is why this guy is amazing everywhere. I actually pulled 2 Donnies. I did one for the fusion, and I ended up pulling one during my Leo event. I believe it was. I pulled an extra Donnie there, which is pretty crazy. So now I have 2 of these guys because he decreases cooldowns of ally skills by 2, which is a lot. He cannot decrease his cooldown on this himself, or others cannot do that. But it also does a speed up buff. It's really good. You can use this in almost you can use him standalone in any other dungeon. Really solid. You don't need the other turtles to use him. It's just really good. He can activate his own continuous heals or other continuous heals on the A1 as well, and does a AoE heal. Donnie is really solid. If you have him, you probably understand what I mean. So for this reason, I am putting Donnie in also in the S tier. I believe that he's great everywhere. I use him pretty much as I can. Great in Clan Boss, great in Hydra. I love this guy. I have 2 of them booked out, in fact. So we're going to be moving Donnie into the S tier for this. So yes, we have another S tier character in here. Again, Crocad's only as S tier as long as you have Packmaster. Let's move on to some of the last few ones. We have Granite Doorkeep. So this is a traditional fusion event as well, but let's take a look in game to Granite Doorkeep. They have all these guys with the door names. I can't really remember them all. This one I do have though. Granite Doorkeep I do have, Now, I don't have him booked, though. Now, originally, he was kind of being pinned as a stone skin killer, is what people said, right? And that ended up not being the case because his overall damage numbers were not really big enough to obliterate people in Arena, which was original, apparently his original design. He does shake off control debuffs, which is great. Fear, true fear, all that stuff, kind of like Fabian. And this is nice. Increases the champion's damage inflicted against targets with no buffs by 20%. His AoE, his single target attack, this also does shatter, 15% shatter buff on all your allies, and also 30% crit damage. So this is basically his nuke, his big nuke that is supposed to basically one-shot people. It ignores unkillable, stone skin, and block damage buffs. If the target is not under any of this, though, it deals double damage, which is pretty big. And if he does get a kill, he gets a follow-up turn. So that's pretty nice. I still seen some pretty big damage on this, but it wasn't like, I guess, the way that they had kind of hyped him up to be. But still, it's a really good skill and has some good buffs on your team on a cooldown of 4, which isn't bad. The Geode Haymaker. This is kind of like a legendary version of like Ugo. So he places a 50% increase accuracy buff on your team. That's good. On a cooldown of 3 with books, which is pretty nice. Has a 75% chance of placing decreased defense and block buffs. So again, 100% with books. I do kind of need to book this guy for Hydra, I think. I use him a lot in Hydra, in fact. Your Bard, a single target attack for 3 hits, and then can also remove random buffs as well. And each hit ignores 20% of the target's defense. So if you have a good HP DPS set, he is pretty solid. He does do some pretty good debuffs, but it's nothing revolutionary by any means. Other than the Shatter is still pretty good. So I do like this guy. I do like this guy. So for that matter, or for that reason, I'm actually I'm gonna be putting Granite in the B tier. I think he's pretty solid. I actually would put him ahead of Lysanthier, frankly. Like, so I'm gonna do this and just like I think he's better than Lysanthier, but I don't want to put Lysanthier. No, we'll leave Lysanthier in the B tier. He's not as bad as Ishiyama. Crowcat? No, shit. Sanguine Maria is next. I was thinking of Cross Wallbreaker, but anyways, Sanguine Maria, she's going to be up next. We're going to be talking about her. So let's go back into the game, who I do own as well, but I have not been using her as much. Like, she's level 60. She is 60. Where is she? She's up here. But I don't have her booked, and I mostly been using her in Faction Crypts and Cursed City. I don't really use her in Arena at this time. I think she's very powerful. Even without books, she hits really hard. She just has this mechanic that's very based on the current turn count. And I am stupid sometimes, and I don't want to like count the turns and all that to know like when I should be using my skills. So the A3 basically does more if you have the number of buffs on her is divisible by 3. And then grants an extra turn if this champion is under a number of buffs that is divisible by 3. So basically, if she's got 3 buffs or 6 buffs, I suppose, you want to use this. The A2 hits really hard, but you want to use this when she's on her 3rd turn. So ignores 33% of the target's defense, ignores 99% if the skill is used on a turn count that is divisible by 3. Stone skin and block damage is also ignored. So really, really crazy. But you have to use this on her 3rd turn because it's intended for you to use her A1 because she has a 33% chance of granting an extra turn. Cannot gain more than, she got slightly nerfed, cannot gain more than 1 extra turn. So she would go into this and then do another A1 and then I guess do the A2 or something like this. It hits really hard. She hits really hard. But she's a lot of work and she's not very auto friendly, and so that part I don't like. So a lot of people are going to hate me for this, but I'm actually going to put her into the B tier. She is really great DPS, but she doesn't really provide any other utility. Apparently she can solo shit if you have like this mythical relic that like almost nobody has. But as far as what she provides to your account, maybe it's just me. She hasn't done a whole lot of amazing things for me just yet. I know a lot of people are probably saying put her into A tier, but for me personally, I feel like she is there because of how much I'm using her currently on my account. Okay, we have 2 left to go. I was like, what time are we? This is a fairly long video. Cross Wallbreaker. Okay, this is one of the most recent ones who I'm actually still sitting on. So that might tell you something. I'm still sitting on his fragments, in fact, waiting for the right time to summon him, so I haven't quite done that yet. So I did finish the fusion. But Cross, he's part of the Ogren Tribes faction. Okay, so where is he at? He's down here, right? He's an attack bomber champion. I heard that his damage numbers with the bombs were a bit unimpressive. That it was not as good as people were hoping it to be. The ratios just weren't that solid. It's mostly a bomber champ. He can detonate bombs and decrease countdown of the bomb debuffs. It can also place it at block active skills. Fine. Bombing apparently in Ogryn faction is a particular requirement for some of the faction hard nodes, other than having War Mother apparently. So I don't know. It's just as far as his overall utility, he's mostly just bomb damage and block active skills, which is okay for faction crypts. And I guess one day I will get some use out of that. Funny enough, I do have War Mother, so I don't. Maybe the two of them would actually do some pretty big things. I don't know. But anyways, I just think she's not as impressive from what I understand. I actually just want to go back and see what people have rated him so far. Apparently, they've rated him pretty well in Faction Wars. But, I mean, if that's the only place that they're actually rating him or think that he's good, I don't know how solid that is. So I'm going to be putting him in the C tier alongside Ishiyama. Probably a nice little buddy there in the C tier. And finally, we have Yuki Masa, who we are doing right now. Now, I am going to be fulfilling this one, which is fine. I think he looks pretty badass as well, actually. I think his design aesthetic is really, really cool. He has an AoE A1. That is really nice. Does some block active skills. We talked about, I'm not going to be going over everything here, but, you know, he does have an AoE freeze attack. He does revive, the revives on the A2, actually. Random ally, but if he did not kill an enemy, sorry, if he did kill an enemy with the A2, it does revive all allies. I also heard that Shadowkin doesn't really have very many reviving champions, so this is pretty nice, although he's more an attack-based reviver, but it's okay. You know, he does a full turn meter steal, which is actually pretty nice, because you can get this on a cooldown of 3. So even from that perspective, it's pretty good for some PvE progression and that kind of stuff as well. And then also fill this champion's turn meter by 50% whenever he skips a turn. Apparently, this could do a crap ton of damage, because his next attack after that is going to ignore 50% of the target's defense. So I heard if you go into either the A2 or the A3 after skipping a turn, it actually does a shit ton of damage. So it's too early to say for me personally. Oh, oops, I screwed that. There we go. Okay, but I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to put him here into the A tier because he's probably going to do some big things. And for Shadowkin, he is one of the few actual healer reviver champions of the Shadowkin faction. So I've moved Yuki Masa here into the A tier, and I think that concludes my fusion tier list. That was a long video, almost 30 minutes long, to go over all 13 fusion champions of 2025. Now, this is just my opinions, of course. Feel free to let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are. If you made it through this long, then congratulations. This was a great year for Raid Shadow Legends, more than just fusion champions, but just for all the stuff going on in the game, the release of Grim Forest, all the quality of life features. Things are going really well in this game, and I hope that this game will have a great 2026 going forward, and we can talk about those 2026 champions as they come out as well. So that's going to be it for my video on the fusions. But before I go, I do want to remind people that if you haven't started playing Raid yet, get out from under that rock. Now is the best time to do so. Get an Arma that returned. Recently, we reworked Knights, Revenant, Legendary, absolutely free. And these 3 amazing epics, Allure, Tagore, and Ruella at accounts level 10, 20, and 30. And don't forget, Tholen Falbeard, one of the S tier fusion champions that I mentioned here in today's video. Use the promo code DemonSlayer within the first 48 hours of a brand new account. That's it for me, everybody, and I'll see you guys all on the next video. And if you like this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and you'll be greatly helping out the channel. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys on the next one.